Welcome back to another episode of Security Minutes. I'm here with Dave Robbins.
Yep.
How are you, Dave?
Yeah, awesome, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing good, mate. What I want to do is I want to expand on the conversation we started in our previous discussion, focused on the analyst role. XDR plays a real powerful role in how it can expand an analyst's capability,
Right.
what they
Yep.
focus on. I'm interested if you could just explore some of the specific ways in which XDR supports and enhances threat detection for the analyst within an organization.
Yeah, no, it's a good question because, again, as we talked about before, analyst productivity is a big part of that. So how do we allow the same analyst capacity to achieve more? A few things you can do there. You think about traditionally in a SOC, what do? You're looking through that event queue, the incident queue, you're picking them out, then the analyst is going to go and start to do the threat hunt from there, look at those different observables and start to make a decision. But from the most basic concepts of automation, why not, the minute that it hits that queue, start to automate that threat hunting process? So for me as an analyst, as soon as I pick that up, that information is there. The first 80–90% of that threat hunt is already done for me, and I can use my skills to really narrow it down from there. So that's probably one example. Another one that it kind of doesn't sound that exciting, but it's actually what analysts really love, is as you go through that process of threat hunting or evaluation or threat detection in this context, actually just logging the activities that have been undertaken, the sort of analysis done. Think about, again, a lot of SOCs, I've got to go and stop what I'm doing, go capture, well, yeah, this is the steps I took, make sure my audit trail is complete. If that part of it can be automated, again, that's the sort of thing that can really improve analyst productivity and help keep these people engaged and really enjoying the work that they do, given how important it is.
XDR is obviously pulling sources from multiple data sets. I think one thing that I'm also really interested, maybe you can take on, is it's also just the intelligence that's fed into the XDR platform. You know, Cisco Talos is, sees so much of the world's traffic. How do you see the intelligence playing a role in the threat detection for the analyst? Yeah,
you need great intelligence. That's absolutely essential. That's going to help the analyst inform those decisions. That's also going to help us better prioritize, because sometimes, you look at most SOCs, what is initially categorized with the high severity rarely ends up being the sort of activity that was the one that had the biggest impact to an organization. So we need to get better at really defining impact in terms of priority. So that's probably one example of how we can address that sort of model.
So the XDR platform is bringing together the insights.
Yep.
There's a bit of AI built in there.
Of course.
There's the threat intelligence that's being brought into the platform. It's all being combined for the analysts so they can make informed decisions.
Correct.
But then they have insights and intelligence so they can react to that threat based on what the XDR platform is telling them.
Yeah, and when I'm thinking about categorizing the threat, probably a good way to look at that is not so much what each individual event was that occurred, but bring that together and particularly what that behavioral pattern is.
Yeah.
Turns out if you go, I'll use Mattack Framework, is what we use in our system, pretty common in the industry, right? If I look at the pattern of how that plugs into the Mattack Framework, those different events that occurred, the order that happens in, and that really the combination of those events and the way they plug into that framework is probably the most accurate way when you go and backtest security incidents to actually determine which are the ones that are going to have the greatest impact. Understanding, again, that behavioral model and being able to use a common language to discuss it.
I want to just talk about, the threat landscape is constantly evolving. Threats are becoming more and more complex.
Yep.
How do you see XDR enabling the analysts or organizations to identify these complex multi-stage attacks?
Rich, you're absolutely right. What we would have historically only really associated with a pretty sophisticated sort of adversary is the sort of thing that we're now seeing consistently across, or directed at organizations really of all sizes here in Australia. And so that's why it's important we're able to automate and be intelligent around how we respond to and identify these multi-stage attacks. It may start with something like an email phishing campaign. Of course, the first email spam was like 30 years ago. That is still one of the critical, if not the most critical threat vectors today. But then I think where it gets really interesting now, maybe different to in the past, is that might try and execute, say, a PowerShell command as an example. how do I know if that PowerShell command is an entirely legitimate system activity, or it's going to be something related to an attempt to deliver ransomware into an organization? And only by knowing what happened up until that point, those other individual items, am I really going to be able to make a great decision around what I need to do to respond. And of course, this would be fine for analysts if this happened a couple of times a month, a couple of times a day, but this is continuous, right? So we need to do a better job, and this is what XDR is all about, really, of bringing that information together, correlating it, and then giving them the most relevant information to do their job.
We focused on what XDR is, how XDR integrates with other solutions, how XDR enhances the threat detection capability of an analyst, and join us for our final episode where we're going to focus on incident response.